You gotta put the sword down, Diana, please.
It doesn't go with the outfit.
At all. Put the sword down, first of all.
Promise me you will protect it with your life.
Hey there, Enthusiacs. Welcome back to Hero Talk. I am your host, Judge Greg. Joining me today, I have a special guest here in the hallowed halls of Hero Talk. I have, of Twitch and Mixer fame, WonderWez herself. Wez, welcome to Hero Talk.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. I just need like a few more seconds. I'm just finishing up. I'm looking up where to buy forearm bracelets and a tiara. So hold on 1 minute. Okay, I've got it bookmarked.
Excellent.
All right.
So if you couldn't pick it up from the foreshadowing, I have WonderWez here, and we're going to talk Wonder Woman. And not specifically because both names have WW, but because Wonder Woman just came out, and we both have seen it. Some of us more than once, Wez.
maybe twice.
Twice,
yes.
but we're going to talk about it because I've been dying to talk about this movie to somebody, and nobody I know has seen it, and so we're doing a Hero Talk.
Oh my gosh, really? You don't know
I don't
anybody
know
else
anyone else who's seen it. Not a soul.
What is wrong with all the people that surround you?
No, I really don't.
It's so good.
But before we get in too deep, Hero Talk is a spoiler podcast. Nothing is off the table. Everything is fair game. You've been warned. All right, let's do it. All right. Wonder Woman. So this, before I even go into my personal opinion, I just want to make sure this is emphatically clear. Objectively, this was an amazing movie.
I agree.
I very much enjoyed this movie. What makes it a sad movie to me is that when you watch Man of Steel, then you watch Batman v Superman, then you watch Suicide Squad, and you're getting set up for a pattern, and you start to have lowered expectations, and then you come in and you see that Warner Brothers is capable of producing a perfectly competent superhero film. It just makes me sad when I then look back at Batman v Superman, and I have to ask, all right, so what happened? Does Patty Jenkins just need to helm all your movies from now on? Because I'm on board with that.
I think that a woman director for this just works, I think. I can't imagine. I was looking at the list of some of the directors they were talking to potentially direct this movie, and I'm just glad we got the director we got. The thing I'm most sad about is that this movie didn't come out when I was 12 years old. That's what I'm really sad about, because I think, man, what would have happened if I saw this when I was a little kid, or, of the appropriate age to be watching this movie, which I think is anywhere over 9 years old. I think if you're a parent,
it was relatively clean.
I think if you're 9 years old or over, you're good to see it, and you should totally expose your kids to this movie, because I came out thinking my life could have been so much different if I had seen this at an early age. I came out thinking, I want to lift weights. I want to start getting in shape. I want to join a roller derby team. I want to do all this cool stuff now. It was an amazing ride, and I'm not sure if men felt that way as well, or if it was sort of like a girl power thing. But
I don't know. I mean, Wonder Woman's a character. I think that I hate to say that Wonder Woman is only a character about just women, because I get really behind the character. I actually very much connect with the character. I think she's very easy to project onto regardless. And I mean, I think she has universal appeal.
Yeah, she's so pure.
She is. It's refreshing, especially when you think about how dark they've made Superman.
Oh, yeah.
And Superman is supposed to be a relatively bright character. And when you see how dark they've made him, and then Batman is just dark by himself, you really start to wonder what's going to happen with Wonder Woman. And what I initially almost saw as a naivety of the character, I realized it's an innocence. This is a character who's never had to deal with the BS of the world. And then she sees it for the first time, and she assumes, well, we're so jacked up obviously somebody else is influencing us. And then in the movie, we have to see her come to the realization that we're just jacked up all by ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's the difference that, you know, some people might see it as a naivete that she has. But I really saw there's this depth of intelligence there that she's able to wrap her mind around the reality pretty quickly. She's just, everything's new to her, and she takes it in, and she has a perspective that everybody else can't have because I mean, even the other Amazons can't have
Mhm.
because they know what's going on, but she has been shielded from all of this.
Yeah, she's the only one, as far as I can tell, that was born on Paradise Island. All of the others were around for whenever the fall
Or
happened.
Themyscira.
Themyscira. Yeah. It was referred to once as Paradise Island by Steve Trevor.
Yes.
Steve Trevor. We'll get to Steve Trevor. I have some issues with Steve. I have always had issues with Steve Trevor.
Oh,
it's
I
not
see.
this movie's fault, but I don't. There are certain aspects of the Wonder Woman mythos that I do not appreciate.
Oh, okay.
One of which, and I'm very glad did not make any appearance in this film, is I hate the invisible jet. It is so ridiculous. It makes no sense. It doesn't belong. It is really out of place in the Wonder Woman mythos. I never want to see it again.
But it's really, really cool when you're like 7 years old. It's such a cool idea. We were watching the old episodes of Wonder Woman over the weekend in lead up to this, and I don't think my husband had ever really seen any of the episodes, and I saw them just peripherally because I am of the age to have been around when it was on television, even though I was very, very young. I had Wonder Woman underoos. I knew Linda Carter's name before I think I knew any other actress's name. And so for me, it was like the Golden Lasso, all of that was all about Linda Carter's Wonder Woman. I wasn't really exposed to the comics, but I think my husband was exposed to the comics, but he wasn't exposed to the television show. So when we were watching it, even though I thought that it was a really great what do you call that? When it's a remaster of the series, excellent remaster of the series available. And but when the invisible plane came on, he was like, "That's ridiculous." And I'm like, "Of course it is, but look at it. It's awesome." He's like, "Why can you can still see them through it. You can see them. What is the point of it being invisible if you can see them?" And I was like, "But they're tiny. You can't see them when they're way up in the sky." Anyway, I was kind of, I mean, I was a little bit bummed that there was no, but I totally understand. I mean, it adds a degree of ridiculousness to it that they didn't really want to go to here.
I would find it very hard pressed to believe. I mean, I already have to suspend disbelief so much in that there is an island of Amazons. And,
you mean that's
one
not
of them,
real?
I don't. Well, I mean, historically, we didn't actually find it in World War One,
Yes,
so I don't know.
Not yet. Okay.
So it's out there somewhere. I mean, I mean, somebody might have seen it. I don't know. They might have been sworn to secrecy. They're probably still stuck on that island.
They just decided to hang out there. They're not coming back. They just disappear. They find the island.
I
they
find
hang
it
out.
very hard to believe that when somebody goes to finally lands on Themyscira, they're like, "Well, I need to get back to that crappy world I just left."
Well, it says a little bit about the motivations of Steve Trevor that they were trying to impress in this movie. Is that he was a patriot. He was completely dedicated to his role in assigned to British intelligence. Because who would want to leave? I mean, I think Samid spoke it very well. He's like, "Wait, there's an island out in the middle of the ocean filled with beautiful women. How do we get there?"
Yeah. And Steve, I mean, in previous iterations, I've seen them be very hostile towards Steve Trevor because I've seen a rehashing of the same story so many times. Either there was an animated movie or in the comic books, and they're usually very hostile towards Steve Trevor. And in this version, they didn't really seem like they were all that hostile. I mean, initially they were because they had to find out who he was, but once they knew, I mean, they were just letting him hang out in the jacuzzi room.
Put him there. That was their dungeon. I don't think you know that. That's actually on Themyscira. That's what they call a dungeon. But yeah, I mean, if you want to call it a jacuzzi room, you can call it a jacuzzi room. But it's actually full of terrors.
He was having grand old time in there.
He was. He looked high. He looked drunk or high or something in that water. It was doing something to him.
Now, if I'm remembering correctly from my Wonder Woman comic reading, and it's been a long time since I've read a Wonder Woman comic, but I have read many of them. I want to say that Themyscira does have these crazy pools on it that, especially if you're not an Amazon, it does weird things to your brain.
Okay.
And to the point where it made sense that he was a little loopy in the pool, because I think some of the pools on Themyscira do that to you, especially if you're not of an Amazonian persuasion. I remember Batman being influenced by one in a
interesting.
mini series not that long ago. So
yeah, it really makes me want to go back and read. I almost wanted to pick up like a set of, how they have those collections. I was like, oh, maybe I should go get one of those, but I didn't want to go overboard. I was like, okay, well, we only have so much time before we talk about this movie. I don't need to become a scholar
Right.
this close to it. I can just respond to what I know about it and how the movie made me feel, which was pretty awesome. I just and I'm seeing so many people just talk about how awesome they're feeling. Even guys. I watched on Facebook, there was a recording of a guy doing his very quick non-spoiler review of Wonder Woman, and it was just the funniest thing. He said it's great. He's like, I'm a Marvel fan. Marvel, we're in trouble. This is the best. I wanted to be Wonder Woman. So it's the kind of movie where you walk out and you just feel like you feel good. You feel powerful. And I haven't had that happen to me in a really, really long time in a movie.
I will give you that. Yes. I don't get to the theaters an awful lot. In fact, since I use the Fandango app, I can actually look up and see which movies I've seen in the theater. And in the last 18 months, it's been Deadpool, Batman v Superman, and Suicide Squad, and now this. So 4.
Well, you've got a theme going, don't you?
I sure do. This is the first time I walked out not thinking to myself, well, that was awful.
Oh, well, yeah. It's very refreshing. Now, I am not a super fan of superhero movies. I was never really caught up in all of the mythology. I mean, my first experience to superheroes, apart from Wonder Woman as a very little kid, was the Superman movies in the 80s.
Chris Reeves?
And Christopher Reeve, yeah. And even Supergirl with
Helen
the
Slater.
actress from The Legend of Billie Jean. Yes, yes. I mean, I loved Superman 3.
Wow.
This tells you, I was a little kid, though, so I can get out of that by saying, look, I was a kid. Kids are who that movie was made for. So that's my superhero stuff. And then the Tim Burton Batman, basically. And then I became of an age where, superhero, I wasn't going to see a lot of movies, basically, when I was a teenager, until I became really interested in film, and then I went and for other purposes. But I've seen most of the big ones. I haven't seen a lot of the recent ones, but because I think, like you said, you come out of some of the movies and you're kind of let down.
More times than not,
I haven't seen a whole lot. Yeah, I saw the Chris Nolan Batman movies. They just were really dark to me. And I was like,
were, yeah. No, I mean, they were masterful movies, and I enjoy his style. But I'll agree, you don't walk out of The Dark Knight feeling good about yourself. I mean, you recognize you watched a good movie, but you're still thinking about, like, wow, look at all these awful things that I just witnessed. And then Dark Knight Rises, unfortunately, due to a subsequent tragedy that occurred, a lot of people, I think, had a very tainted view. And I saw that movie in a matinee show opening day after such a thing happened, and it was extremely uncomfortable as you watched some of the violence on screen, knowing in the back of your head about some of the real world events that occurred. And it definitely, I had a very uneasy feeling walking out of that theater, and I still haven't seen it since, and I have no desire to, quite frankly.
Yeah. I think, we all go to movies for different reasons. I think we can go to the movies to, if there's a big blockbuster movie, you want to experience something on the big screen. You go to movies for comedy, you go to movies to be moved somehow emotionally, or you go to movies to experience something that you have experience with, like, comic books and the DC Marvel series. I think a lot of people go to those movies because they have this history with the comics, and they're very drawn into that. And I'm sure your audience is primarily made up of that contingent. And I can't even imagine the kind of, like, you never know what you're getting into, because you have all of these different books and stories to draw from. And I think that Wonder Woman even has, like, some Marvel. Am I correct correct in that? Like there was a little bit of Wonder Woman and Marvel side as well, or maybe it was the mythology of Hercules. And,
so there's some, the Greek mythology splits, and they, given that it's all public domain, they've both used it. And they go in different routes. One of the big examples is that in the Wonder Woman mythos, Hercules is a villain and did unspeakably horrible things on Themyscira. And in the Marvel side, Hercules is a hero, and in fact, he's one of the baby-faced of the baby-face heroes. He's just like this extreme pure good who still believes himself back in ancient Greece, and is just, he's the hero, and he's here to help people, and so you get a lot of that on either side. Now, bear in mind that despite having read many comic books on both sides of the fence, primarily DC, which hurts sometimes watching these movies because I bring a lot of my own baggage in with me, whereas I go see Guardians of the Galaxy and I have no idea what the Guardians of the Galaxy are, and I can just enjoy myself.
Yeah, and you know, I get to benefit from that because I don't have a lot of that. I don't have that history with these superhero movies.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I have them if I read a book and then go see a movie, then I have that, and it's like, oh well, you know, this didn't quite live up to this, or I think they should have done this. But like, you know, there's so much history with people and comic book heroes that they come in and obviously these stories are resonating with people and they're very passionate about it. So it's got to be elevated. Either it's like the greatest thing you've seen, or oh, I hate this so much and I can't believe they did this, and who is this director? I'm going to boycott them forever.
Right. It's very hard for the fanboys to differentiate themselves from, and the fangirls too, because nobody gets a pass on this. Everyone does it.
I just happen to be one of those girls who doesn't have a whole lot of comic books experience, but there are a lot of other ladies.
Everyone walks into these movies and they bring all of their expectations in, and you can either be one of those people who can appreciate what's on screen in front of you, or it didn't meet the exact expectations of your internal monologue, and it is therefore the worst thing ever. And I find that even so, Wonder Woman is not my favorite superhero. She is in my top 3, but not my favorite. My favorite is Batman, and I can go watch Batman in many different interpretations and be perfectly okay with what I see on screen. But Wonder Woman, for some reason, I am so particular about Wonder Woman mythology and the Wonder Woman the lore and what they bring in, that I was really worried I wouldn't enjoy it, because I was always afraid that they were going to bring in some aspects I didn't like, and her story is ever changing, so I have no idea what I'm going to see when I actually walk into this theater. And I'm not sure why specifically for Wonder Woman, only because maybe since I've seen so many different versions and iterations of things, I've had this wide array of what I like and don't like, whereas Batman is kind of just Batman and relatively unchanged throughout the years in the comic books. There's not been a lot of growth in the character, whereas Wonder Woman is. They've had to update the character of Wonder Woman because her initial origins really don't make an awful lot of sense, and so it's been a character who's had to sort of been brought to realign the character with the origin and the mythos. But this movie did right more than it did wrong. There's only a couple of things that I really didn't like from the Wonder Woman mythos that showed up, mostly Steve Trevor. Primarily Steve Trevor. I had a very hard time when I knew he was going to be a major role in this movie, because he's the one. Steve Trevor needs to like be in the opening scene and then somehow die before the end of the first act. That's what I need. That's what I.
You know, I'm not a super big fan of Chris Pine. Don't throw tomatoes at me. He's a perfectly okay actor, but
that's about right.
In the Star Trek series, I have never been super moved by him. I always see him as kind of doing an affectation, and when I heard about this movie, I didn't really expose myself to too much of it, but I kind of peripherally knew that he was going to be in it, and I was like, okay, well, he's going to be in it. But I was reading afterwards some of the other actors that they were thinking about casting in the Steve Trevor role. Liam Hemsworth being one of them. So you could have got a Liam Hemsworth Steve Trevor, and you could have gotten an Alexander Skarsgård Steve Trevor. And I was thinking about that, and their body shapes aside, I was like, I'm kind of glad we got a Chris Pine, because he is not, I mean, again, I don't have the history of the comic books behind me. I just have, the little bit of the Steve Trevor that we got on the Wonder Woman series, but I think he was the everyman that needed to anchor Wonder Woman throughout this introduction to her. I mean, this is really this is the origin story film for Wonder Woman. Right. And they needed sort of like a normal human guide to bring her into this, and because it's kind of about humanity. So you needed a human to kind of be the secondary.
Well, we could have found someone better than Steve Trevor, right? There's got to be someone else out there.
I don't know. Etta Candy was pretty awesome.
Etta Candy was pretty awesome. I could have lived with Etta Candy. I don't really like Chris Pine, and I've never seen Chris Pine do something that I didn't wish I was watching Bradley Cooper do.
Oh, well, yeah. Bradley Cooper is not my cup of tea either, really, but I can see that. But Chris Pine has this sort of like, I mean, I'm going to speak very shallowly right now, but he's kind of like, he's kind of superficially not very good looking. Like he's not eye candy. I'm sure some women find him very attractive, but he just doesn't seem like one of those Hollywood hunks to me. He feels like he's kind of like, he's just an everyman to me who passes as a movie star, and so he can kind of be in a role, and I think that I bought him as Steve Trevor. I bought the act. He won me over. I'm not a mega fan of his anymore or anything like that, but I think that I can't imagine anybody else in the role right now after having seen it. You said Bradley Cooper.
I said Brad Cooper. Yeah, that's my thought. I mean, I'll give you Chris Pine. When you see Chris Pine, he looks like somebody who was in an old black and white photo from World War I. So I could see the thought of, well, I mean, he just looks like your guy who would end up finding himself drafted in World War I, who ended up, having, I don't know what it takes to be a spy in World War I. I actually have never been a spy in World War I. But,
well,
but I mean, he does kind of look like just your random run-of-the-mill guy that he could see. I just wanted him to die soon.
Okay. Well, you got his death. I mean,
at least he's dead.
Alert.
Although Chris Pine has signed a multi-picture deal.
Whoa.
So
wait,
yeah,
what?
yeah. Chris Pine is signed for more than one movie.
Oh.
So I mean, I don't know if he's specifically the character of Steve Trevor's coming back. There are still some enemies of Wonder Woman out there. Circe comes to mind, who is a witch and could conjure an image of Steve Trevor if she wanted to.
Oh,
so
yeah.
But anyway, so I think
I cried.
Did you cry?
I have to admit, I did. I cried a couple of times during the film. I cried. A tear fell down my cheek. It fell down the second time as well that I saw it. Was when he sacrificed himself. I was like, it was powerful. It's, the storytellers, they got me. They got me hook, line, and sinker. I was like, look at this. Look at what he's doing. He's having that moment. He knows he's going to kill himself, but he's doing it for, patriotism or, world peace or something like that. And that is beautiful. And I'm crying now. So,
I suppose if I could feel human emotions, I might have felt something for that.
Yeah.
But I'm some kind of machine. So, all
Oh.
right. So anyway, let's roll into the cast, because I think we have talked to death our overview, and we could keep going. Unfortunately, we could do a 3-hour hero talk just on what we thought of the movie itself and somehow Steve Trevor. But let's talk about the titular character, shall we?
Oh, okay. Titular?
I say titular. I don't know. Okay. Is it particularly inappropriate for this movie if I pronounce it that way?
I was gonna say maybe be a little more careful, but you say the words the way you feel them.
That's kind of how I've always said it. I was so the main character of the movie,
the title character. Let's just
the title character. Although the words Wonder Woman were never spoken in the
film, which I think was amazing, actually, because in the first episode of the television series, they totally went there. They're like, he's like, "You're a Wonder Woman." She's like, "Wonder Woman." Kind of like one of those breaking the fourth wall almost kind of scenes. It's like, okay, right. But yeah, I really like that they never referred to her
Yeah.
she said the word wonder in it, but right at the beginning, the wonders of humanity or something like that. But they never referred to her as a Wonder Woman, and I respect that.
It's always so awkward when they shoehorn that in to some movie. I mean, it's one thing when Iron Man gets his name Iron Man because it's, the newspaper says it and he just rolls with it. But, War Machine got his name in a throwaway line in the middle of the movie. Thor's name happens to be Thor. Captain America made sense because he was a propaganda tool. But man, some of these other characters, especially villains always have their names kind of shoehorned in. Superman just kind of, if you remember Man of Steel, they just drop that name out of like, Superman's coming, and somebody looks like Superman. Yes, that's what they're calling him. I'm like, oh, so that's how we're getting by that, huh?
Yeah.
It was really just like everyone decided off screen to call him Superman, and now that's what we call him now. So I will at least respect them for not saying the words Wonder Woman, but at some point in time, if you're going to have a Wonder Woman series of movies, somebody's got to say those words.
They'll find a way to do it somehow. Hopefully, if they keep the same producers, the same or similar minded director, then
Patty Jenkins, she did, and this is her first action film. I mean, if you look at her catalog, it's like a lot of drama, it's a lot of comedy TV shows, and I mean, you figure she obviously has to be good at what she's doing. They don't just hand off a big movie like this to nobody. Yeah. So she's obviously
really
got, I mean,
good.
she did Monster, which was a phenomenal movie with Charlize Theron.
She's really good at female intensity. So Monster was all about that crazy female intensity. And she also directed a couple episodes, including the pilot episode of the series The Killing, which I loved that series. I thought it was just so atmospheric, and all of the performances were really good, especially the main character, who was a woman, and it was just like the subtlety, the intensity. And that a lot of that, I mean, the actors bring a lot to that, but I think really good direction in that sphere is good. But yeah, the surprise is that this is like her first big action thing, and that she was able to, I mean, it kind of makes you think like, what kind of skills do you need to deliver a really good action sequence? And
the action sequences were phenomenal in this film.
Yeah.
They were jaw-dropping. And they're the sort of thing that Zack Snyder thinks that he produces when he makes action sequences, but doesn't really. But I mean, they were masterful, and they reminded me a lot of the scene right towards the end of Batman v Superman. I'm going to call it the Batman fight.
The Batman scene. Now, I have just seen Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
I just watched it after seeing Wonder Woman, because I heard Wonder Woman was going to be in that movie, and I thought, well, maybe I should round out my awareness of this. And man, that was a grim movie. But
it sure was. Yeah.
The Batman,
it sure was.
The Batman fight. I have to say, I slept through a little bit of Dawn of Justice, just a little bit. It was
towards the end. It was when Batman was rescuing the mother.
It was rescuing the mother.
It was right after they figured out their moms had the same first name and became best friends.
Oh, right. Yes.
So anyway, so there was the Batman fight, and the reason I bring that up is because when I first saw Wonder Woman actually start to take on the German army right after crossing the no man's land. It reminded me of that fight not that they're derivative of each other, but in that fight when I saw Batman, that was the first time I'm like, wow, I'm seeing Batman fight the way I would want to see Batman fight. And then the same thing happened. There was this one scene and Wonder Woman bursts in the room, and next thing you know, I'm watching a Wonder Woman fight. And I'm just in stunned silence going like, that's Wonder Woman fighting right there. And I you can't get over it. And to think that, Zack Snyder has done so many action sequences and everything that kind of informed his scene, and Patty Jenkins has done Arrested Development, and and you get scenes that are these two stunning scenes from somebody who's never done this sort of thing before, and somebody who does this sort of thing all the time to a fault. It really I'm just saying it speaks to her skill as a director to be able to walk in and put together a scene like that as well as it went.
And that kind of sequence is not just the director's baby, right? So the director is corralling a whole heap of different artisans directors who are probably the real pros at doing these kinds of sequences, but she knows how to guide them and to make sure that it is done with care for the character and for the tone that she wants to set. But a good director knows how to harness the people who are working on the production, and I'm sure there was a lot of very skilled choreographers and stunt people, and the editing. Editing has a big thing to do with that, but a lot of that is done with storyboarding, and it was just so impressive. I just felt, I have seen some of the recent action films, and I remember seeing some of the fights and just thinking, man, this fight just doesn't look real. I don't feel it. I feel very disoriented. I feel like it's moving too fast. I feel like they're trying to pull some of the punches because maybe they're trying to do too much, but this just felt visceral. I was feeling those impacts. When she took that guy through the wall
with that knee to the chest. Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah,
he's dead.
Oh, God. That was just, I felt that. I was like, yeah, get him. And then the lasso sequences even.
Yeah, they made the lasso look cool. And the lasso.
It looks so good.
The lasso, especially when you think back to Linda Carter, who for some reason didn't have a cameo in this. But when you think back to Linda Carter, it always kind of came out as the guy would try to run away, and then she would have to very awkwardly lasso him to stop him from running away. And in this case,
she would throw the whip, right? Yeah. She would throw the lasso, the whip, whatever, and then they would cut to the guy fully wrapped around with it, basically.
Yes, it wasn't fooling anybody. In this case, I saw her fighting with the lasso, and I firmly believed this thing is a weapon of prominence that she could yield in order to try to fight off a German regiment. I was very impressed with that whole scene. It was done very well. And to kind of go off your point, yes, Patty Jenkins does have all these people and choreographers and storyboarders. However, Zack Snyder had those same people when he was choreographing a fight between Batman and Superman. And that was probably the most disjointed and just confusing and nonsensical fight I have seen in a superhero film since George Clooney fought Mr. Freeze.
Yeah. I mean, everybody did a really good job on this film. I think everybody earned their pay. Gal Gadot, I don't really know how to pronounce her name. Gadot? Is it Gadot?
It is Gadot. We totally wasted a waiting for Gadot joke on her, and then we found out it was Gadot. So, yeah.
Gadot. Okay. I will never mispronounce it again. But, she was just so good. And I didn't know anything about her before seeing this.
I will say,
I knew
every time her name has come up, I feel a personal need to apologize, because when she got first assigned this role, I saw, and I had to seek out, what is she from? And the only thing I could really find that I had available to me was the Fast and the Furious series. And I saw that and I said, not a chance. No, they totally got it wrong. And so obviously this is why you should never really listen to me, and I don't know what I'm talking about, because she was phenomenal and is perfect for it. And so, just as we mentioned her name, I'm now once again compelled to say, don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm doing. She was great. Don't go by what I say. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Maybe that's in conjunction with having a really good director who's able to bring out intensity and is able to she was photographed beautifully. She is so gorgeous in this. Oh my gosh, she's flawless.
She is a former Miss Israel, actually.
Well, yes. Okay. And I think she went to the Miss Universe pageant as well, right?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
She's just gorgeous, but she in part of this filming, I think when they had to do some reshoots, she was 5 months pregnant. 5 months
pregnant, had to wear the green thing over her belly so they could edit out the baby bump.
I know. She's a hot mom, you guys. She is a hot mom. She's got 2 kids, and she's Wonder Woman, and that is amazing. It's just she was beautiful. She was totally charming. She could be her smiling in it was just it wins you over. It warms your heart. It makes you think, gosh, she's so cute. And then when she's intense, you're like, man, do not get on her bad side. She just has that. She has the range in this. And sometimes you see people and you look at their eyes and you're like, man, maybe there's nothing behind those eyes, you know, but she does have it. And I was really impressed. And I was looking at the list of people, like, they've been trying to make this movie for a really long time.
Since like the mid 90s, they've been trying to get this movie on, and so many different people associated with it. Sandra Bullock at one point.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can buy Sandra Bullock as Wonder Woman.
I don't know. No, I mean, I've seen Miss Congeniality, which is very close to Wonder Woman. Actually, no, it's nothing like Wonder Woman.
It's not. No.
But no, it's like I think, you know, we just got somebody who was ready to play her and did a really good job. I was talking to my husband after the show and I was like, she kind of reminded me of Angelina Jolie, and my husband was like, yeah, but she can act. Like,
okay, now Miss Angelina Jolie is a Hero Talk favorite, and we
I love Angelina Jolie.
Love her.
I have the hugest girl crush on her. I love what she does for humanity. She's a UNHCR, you know, High Commissioner for Refugees. Like, she's a great person in real life. I'm sure of it. Like, but she's really hard to. I try to watch her movies.
Are you really?
But
because I love her. I love her in movies. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Tomb Raider, Salt, Wanted. She was the only watchable thing in Wanted.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but she's always like kind of the same. I liked her in Mr. and Mrs. Smith a lot. I think that was the best role she had, but I think it's because of all this chemistry. Like, she and Brad Pitt really played really well.
They did.
Off against each other.
She was great in Salt too. I mean,
I didn't see Salt. You know, yeah,
she was.
You know,
she played very well in Salt.
I just have trouble watching her on screen now, and that's probably just me, but it's just like, it's kind of like, all right, I know that I'm watching this because it's Angelina Jolie. I'm not watching it because she's going to give a really good performance, but maybe, you know, I mean, she's won an Oscar, right? So what do I know? Yeah, I think she won Best Supporting Actress for Girl Interrupted.
That's correct.
I believe.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yes.
I used to know my movie trivia.
Yes. No, I've been a fan since I think her breakout role was Gia.
Yeah, Gia was good.
Yeah, Gia was good. And I like everything she's in. She's just one of those actresses that I just like in everything. I would have 15
years ago we could have had Angelina Jolie as Wonder Woman.
And 15 years ago, today I don't think that would have been the best choice, because it's just, you know, time comes for us all. But I think but
yeah, sure.
I think Gal Gadot was perfect, and I'm sorry I doubted it. I had in my head a handful of actresses that I really thought I wanted to see, one of which was Gina Carano, former MMA fighter, ironically also in the Fast and Furious movie series now. She was also, she was a starring role, and I'm trying to, what was the name of the, Haywire, I think was the name of the film. So basically, physically, she could be Wonder Woman. Acting range, not even a little bit.
Oh,
no.
Yeah. Well, that's important.
If
they haven't come up with that way to, like, match the looks to the acting performance just yet. They'll get there.
No, they'll
just
get
wait.
there. Another person I would have liked to have seen, I would have liked to have seen Gina Torres have a crack at the role.
Gina Torres.
Yeah, from Firefly. She was Zoe on Firefly. Cleopatra 2525. And then I think she was also played the role of Cleopatra, and she was a pirate on Hercules: The Legendary Journeys.
I'm looking her up right now.
I love me some Hercules: The Legendary Journey. That's where 99% of my Greek mythology comes from, Hercules: The Legendary Journeys.
Okay.
And Xena Warrior Princess. I watched both. I usually default to Hercules because I watched it first. That was obviously, like, Xena was the spinoff, and because I've met Kevin Sorbo. So me and my wife met Kevin Sorbo at a Comic-Con, and so you think, oh, so you talked to him about Hercules? And I'm like, no, he actually didn't talk to me at all. But he and my wife talked about golf for about 5 minutes.
Oh. Yeah, you know, your wife knows what to chat to those people about, because I'm sure the last thing they want to talk about is their roles.
Yeah, no, but that man, when he asks where we're from, and we tell him, and then he starts listing off all the good golf courses by where we live. Like, wow, this guy knows his New England golf courses. He basically said to me, like, listen, if there's a golf course there, I've been there. And I'm like, well, when you're famous like that, then that's what you can do with your time, I guess.
Yeah, everyone's got their hobbies, right? I think they just did a really good job casting I think they did a great job casting everybody, but the Amazons in particular, I was just really blown away. Again, I didn't see any of the footage really before going into the movie. So when I saw Robin Wright roll up.
Yeah, Buttercup showed up.
And I was like, it's Claire. Oh my gosh, from House of Cards.
Yeah.
I have just been watching the current season of House of Cards. So Claire Underwood is on my brain, and I saw her and I was like, oh my gosh, how perfect is this?
She was a General Antiope. You just saw this movie. Was it Antiope? Is that how you say it?
Yeah. It's Antiope, I believe, is the pronunciation that they use.
Yeah.
It rhymes with Calliope. Antiope. That's the way I remembered
well,
it.
that's a great mnemonic device.
Yes. No, she was, I loved all the women, and I loved that they were all like in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. You know, these weren't the young, flighty girls from the Wonder Woman series in the 70s who were running around on the island, and then randomly you had Cloris Leachman as the mother,
yes!
who was... She was awesome in it. I loved that she was throwing in some like winks and nods and humor in there as much as she could, and I loved every minute of it. But this was an entirely different thing. This is like just a bunch of badasses. I don't know if I can say that on this.
You can say that. We've said far worse on Hero Talk than that.
They were just so awesome. Like Connie Nielsen, I wasn't really super familiar with her, but I was like, man, she looks familiar.
Oh, she's from
to
Gladiator,
me.
right?
Oh, okay, Gladiator.
Yeah, she's from Gladiator,
yes.
and with Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves. I'm trying to think of the name of that movie right off the top of my head.
Devil's
Advocate. Those were the two places I specifically remembered her from. She was also in 1 Hour Photo, which is one of Robin Williams' greatest roles. A great scary performance.
Is that Mark Romanek directed that? Am I correct with that? I don't know.
1 Hour
I'm
Photo?
doing all my movie trivia now.
Yes.
Oh, good. Ding, ding, ding. Okay. I'm always happy when I remember these random things. I used to be really, really, really into movies, and I used to see all of them when they came out, but that was a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But yeah, I think they just did all of these women. They just had such gravitas, you know.
I really wish they would have taken some time to maybe give us a little bit more individual personality to each, you know, because there is a lot of comic books that take place on Themyscira, and a lot of the Amazons have their own characters, and they get fleshed out in the comics a lot more. And so you show a group shot, and you just, if you say, all right, pick out Artemis, I'm like, I don't know. None of these people get to talk. You know, it's basically I get Hippolyta, I get Antiope, and I get Diana, and that's about it. Those are the only speaking roles. Everyone else is just there, and they all. I mean, if you look at the credits, they all got names. People were assigned specific Amazons. I'm assuming they're going to show up in maybe some later films. That would be great. I would think maybe if I was Diana and I was helping the Justice League and a bunch of interdimensional foot soldiers were flooding the world, and I knew that there was an island full of warrior women, I might go back there and say, where do you think they're going to go when they're done with everywhere else?
Yeah.
And so maybe we'll get to see these people again. At the very least, maybe we'll get to see them again in Wonder Woman 2, the search for... I was going to try to think of a subtitle,
Spock.
but yeah. I was going to go with the search for more money. I was going to go full...
The search for Steve.
The search for
Steve Trevor. She's going to go find his body in the airplane, and I don't know, some resurrection action. He's blown up. Or is he?
Let's just keep him dead. All right. So Gal Gadot did a great job as Wonder Woman.
Yes.
I mean, and we got to talk about the costume, because the costume is one of those things. The traditional Wonder Woman costume I don't like, because the costume was designed first, and then they came up with a really hokey explanation for it. And it was obviously the original costume was meant to resemble an American flag, because like all the other superheroes that are invented in that time, she was a patriotic American character who was helping us fight the Nazis. You know, so when Wonder Woman and Superman and Captain America are all punching out Nazis and Hitler in the face and whatnot, she was in with that crew. But, I mean, Superman was from Kansas, and Captain America was from Brooklyn, but Wonder Woman was from an island in the middle of the ocean.
Yep.
So why is she wearing an American flag?
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, they wanted to design kids' underoos, and then they're like, okay, let's make something around this. No, I the outfit, the costume for her in particular didn't really move me in any particular way. It felt a lot more metallic. It felt like it was actually armor, but then, you know, obviously it wasn't the armor like Ares' armor, which was amazing, by the way. The where he basically molded his armor from flames and metal and like dragged his fingers down to make his eye holes.
That was pretty
whole thing
sweet.
Was amazing.
Yes.
It's like, okay, well, she's got her bits and ninnies are covered up, but like her arms and her legs,
it really, I would think. I mean, especially when you very well establish that she's not bulletproof.
Right.
If she can be sliced, she can be cut. She might be resilient, but she can still. She's not invulnerable. It's not like Superman. If Superman wants to roll out wearing a thong, he's really no less protected than when he's wearing his regular Superman suit.
Sure.
But Wonder Woman has a lot of very crucial veins and arteries exposed, and you really see it, especially at the end of Batman v Superman, where the three of them are on screen at the exact same time, and you see Batman, who's wearing his bat suit, and Superman, who's wearing super suit, and Wonder Woman, who has very vital organs exposed. I mean, it's the bare minimum, and so I can almost explain away like, well, I mean, it's Amazon armor, it's what the Amazons. But then when you see Themyscira, all the other Amazons seem to have armor that covers more of them. You wonder, so what's her deal? Like, the first thing I thought, and this is what occurs to me, is if I'm Wonder Woman and I have bracelets that deflect bullets, I think to myself, okay, I want to be covered head to toe in whatever that material's made out of.
Well, they kind of worked this out a little bit when they were in the clothing shop in London, where she's like, hey, everything was so stifling. How do you move around and fight in this? So she needs to have room to move around. And if you look at a costume like, let's say, Batman's from Dawn of Justice, he wasn't able to move around at all in that thing.
No.
Oh my gosh, he looked like he was stuffed into that thing, and he was barely able to move. Like, I didn't believe any single one of those movements that he made in that suit. And Superman's suit is just like tights. So, whatever, it's tights. So, none of the costuming is perfect. None of it is going to be realistic. I think they did an okay job. I think that it wasn't too sexy. I don't think it wasn't too flamboyant. It just, I think it served a purpose.
It's the best interpretation I've ever seen of Wonder Woman's costume outside of Xena Warrior Princess.
Oh, okay.
I've quite frankly, I think they got it right, and it's what Lucy Lawless wore in Xena, because I think that's that. It just throw a little color in that, and that's what I want Wonder Woman to wear. And this was pretty close. I mean, I've never done battle in a halter top. Just
sure. I mean, so how can you really speak to the adequacy?
Yeah, I can't say whether or not it would work, but I would say as an engineer at heart, I have to question whether it would.
Although I was watching the sequence on No Man's Land where she was facing that battery of bullets, right? And she had bent down and she had her shield out in front of her. And the first viewing, I thought, okay, that's a little unrealistic. How is she going to avoid all those? But then the second time I watched it, and if you look at that side view of her shielding herself, her leg plates actually that came up above her knees were actually shielding all of the bullets from her lower body, and then she had her upper body shielded. So like it actually like worked out. They paid attention to that. It was physically possible for her armor to protect her from that all of those bullets. So maybe we just need to like be okay with it because it's real life and it totally works.
Listen, I've been down this road with many a Wonder Woman fan who eventually says, listen, it looks cool, just let it go. And so eventually I need to just kind of make my peace with the fact that Wonder Woman is never going to be clad in armor, and that it's always going to be some rendition that's reminiscent of the early costume. And no matter how ridiculous the early costume is, we have to call back to it in some fashion or another. I need to make my peace with that. This is the best I've seen it portrayed. I like that the warrior skirt was blue, but there weren't star spangledness all over it, because that looks better.
Yes.
I like the eagle that's at the top of the halter. I like the strap that she uses for the sword and shield. I like that's kind of a thing. I'd like to have shoulder armors, because if it was me and I had to fight in that getup, I would want some shoulder armor as well. But I mean, I also like that she's fighting with a sword and shield, which is something that has only very recently become a mainstay in the comic books. So,
I see.
So more or less, this is the best I've seen it. However, I just want her to wear what Xena wears. Am I asking too much? I just want.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just a smidge. Maybe have a letter campaign. You know, you just start a letter writing campaign say, look, I don't know how far you are into the production of Wonder Woman 2, but here are my notes, and just send them like the series of Xena.
Yeah.
And,
I took some costume notes for you, and it's just a picture of Xena. Like, here, see what you can do with that.
Yeah.
It looks so good in Xena, though. Xena's costume was it was designed so perfect. I'm in stunned silence as I even think about it now as to how great was that costume design. Somebody did a great job on that. And then you look at Wonder Woman, you think, that's what you should be wearing. That makes perfect sense. That's a warrior princess. You're a warrior princess. How have you not made this connection?
Because they want to delineate maybe a little bit. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I think they did a reasonably good job. Again, I'm not super into costume design, in particular hero costume design, but I do play a lot of MMOs with fantasy characters.
You do, yes.
And I know that when I'm playing a female warrior, I have an arms warrior in World of Warcraft, I do tend to unequip her helm, or not unequip, but make it invisible, hide helm a lot, and sometimes I even hide shoulders, depending on... now, that doesn't mean that she doesn't have the armor. Maybe it's just invisible. Instead of the jet, maybe some of her armor is invisible. Maybe we need to think about that.
You're asking me to let go of an awful lot here. But all right. Well, I'm letting it go. I've said my piece about the costume. This is a step closer to Xena, so this was a good thing.
Okay.
And we'll get there. And I generally I like that it's metallic. I like the armor. I like the boots. I like that they sort of look like sandals. I mean, I love the general design and the look. And what I like about it is when you see her in the costume, there's no question in my mind that that's Wonder Woman. I mean, it just looks like Wonder Woman. Whereas sometimes where you get a costume design, they have to tell you, hey, this is who this is supposed to be.
Oh, yeah. No, you can totally
tell. Yeah, you can totally tell. Like, it's updated. It's not the Star Spangled Shorts. You know, it's not just, you know, an American flag draped over her. But you can still see Wonder Woman when you see it, which is very, very important.
Yeah. I'm looking at the costume now, and I think it's good. I like the strap. Like, I agree with you. I like the strap.
Yeah.
The tiara doesn't even bug me.
No, yeah. I like the tiara she wears here much better than the traditional tiara, like the kind that Linda Carter wore. I very much appreciate she didn't take her tiara off and throw it like a frisbee, because that's a thing in the comic books.
I still really want a pair of these forearm bracelets, and I want the kind that light up.
Yes.
I want them. You know how she's like when she crosses her arms and the magic. I'm looking at a picture right now, and they're lit up like lava. And I was like, man, how much would it cost for me to get one of those that lights up? I just want that. Yeah. Okay, all right.
But yeah, I just bought my daughter a Gal Gadot doll, so she wanted like the $20 doll with the action poses, and I said, no, I'm gonna get you the $10 doll. But...
Well, you know, maybe when her birthday rolls around or Christmas or something like that. Go for broke.
Yeah.
Go for.
All right. Anyway, let's see who else from the cast do I really want to talk about. So we said Robin Wright, Connie Neeson, Ares. So David Thewlis, and I believe that's how you say it, Thewlis as Ares. So this was the twist. We didn't know this character was Ares at the time. Ever we were supposed to think that Ludendorff was Ares, played by Danny Houston, but instead David Thewlis was. Did you see it coming? Were you surprised he was Ares?
So I was talking to my husband about this. I didn't know that he was Ares consciously, but the minute I saw him, I was like, in Harry Potter, didn't he play a character that like he was something different than you thought he was? And I'm like, there's gonna be something about him that's different that we don't think, but I'm not sure yet. But so it wasn't a surprise.
Okay.
But I did go like, oh snap, when he was in the little guard station after she took out Ludendorff, and then nothing happened. I wasn't surprised that nothing happened when she killed Ludendorff, but the shoe hadn't really dropped for me. So, but I think the reveal was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Their whole sequence together I just really liked it. I did.
What can I say? So I was a little bit worried because when Hippolyta tells Wonder Woman where she came from, she specifically tells her about being molded from clay and then being imbued with life, and in this case by Zeus, which was her original comic book origin. was that. I mean, she was imbued with life by Aphrodite, but, the same general origin. She was molded by clay. And I thought to myself, I was really hoping they weren't going to do the molded by clay, because her most recent incarnation in the comics, which everyone seems to like a lot better, is that she's the biological daughter of Zeus and Hippolyta. And when she's the daughter of Zeus, that makes me think of Hercules, which makes me think of Xena, which makes me think of Wonder Woman. It's a beautiful symmetry.
Yes.
And so I was really worried they weren't going to do that. And then when Ares finally reveals that, and now that he didn't specifically say that she was the biological daughter of Hippolyta and Zeus, rather he kind of implied that Zeus already had her or created her from his essence and then left her with Hippolyta. But I'm just going to go ahead and believe that she's the biological daughter because I choose to.
There was something in there. I don't remember the exact words, but I believe there was saying something, and where they referred to Hippolyta as the mother and as Zeus as the father. And then she called him brother.
Yes, she did.
So, there's that whole thing. So I think that, and I even think that the hide, the whole like, oh, you were made out of clay and imbued with life by Zeus. Now, let's talk about what imbuing with life really means. I mean, so
let's not get too graphic here. This is still a relatively clean.
That could be taken as like he's the father, but without really, pointing it out a little bit. It's not maybe a total lie, but it's like if someone told me that I was made of clay and imbued with life, I would probably ask questions, but maybe not.
Oh, I mean, I've never lived on Paradise Island myself, so I don't really know. She's the only kid, so. But then she read all those books on procreation, so I mean, you would think the question would have come up at some point.
She knows the birds and the bees,
she
but
does.
She's taken it all at face value. I get, she's got no reason to disbelieve any of the women that are her tutors or her, her mom or her aunt. They're all having a good old time there. I would like, now that you said it, I would like to see more more about Themyscira and its origin. I think the whole origin sequence that they did with the the animations was really, really well done. I felt like enlightened, and I felt like, oh, I learned something. Is this school? I don't know that this is actually Greek mythology, but I feel like I'm more informed.
They made it feel like Greek
Something.
mythology.
Yeah. No, it was just but I kind of like I kind of want to see the story of that whole battle sequence, and
it seems like
Amazon's
there's like a really good
down
DVD extra in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I found kind of a little odd is that the Amazons and their island was created by Zeus, and there was a lot of tribute to Zeus in this. Whereas comic book wise, obviously, Hera is usually brought up, the queen of the gods, because if you think about it, it makes more sense that the Amazons would be more aligned to Hera than the king of the gods. And then they say it a lot in the comic books, like Hera help me, stuff like that. Hera give me strength. And there was a lot of references to Zeus and not as much to Hera, which was kind of it was when you bring, and that's my baggage. Like I say, when I bring that in, and I know that the Amazons constantly reference Hera, to never hear her name spoken in this movie was definitely a little odd to me.
Yeah, when they're writing these things, they have to really balance, depth of the material versus what's going to be what's going to work for the audience presentation, right? And, if they had also included Hera, maybe they could have factored it in, but I think, that's some of the things that we rely on filmmakers to do, is to not dumb it down really, but make it really palatable,
more
in
accessible,
a way that allows us to have the experience and not get too caught up in the nuts and the bolts in the moment. Because I can imagine my brain going a number of different ways. I mean, already it's like, oh, Zeus and Man and Ares, and I'm glad they didn't throw a whole bunch of names in there, because it just would have, I think, it's probably a hard decision for them to make in those, in the writing rooms, and that, to cut some major player out of the lore. But I think they might have made the right decision here. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I get why. You can't have Zeus be the father of Wonder Woman, and then then Hera, like, there's only so many Greek gods that you can bring in. What I did find, this is especially when you contrast this with Thor, is in Thor, they go out of their way as they introduce the Norse mythology that we are not actually gods. We are just like super advanced aliens that just seemed like gods to the people who were around then. Whereas in Wonder Woman, they straight up say, all right, Greek mythology is canon now.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And I was like, wow. Yeah.
Zeus created mankind. This is just how it is in our world. And I thought, wow, that took some gumption, that somebody approved it and said, all right, well, listen, we're just going to roll with the presumption that Greek mythology was fact. And we're just gonna roll with that. And it just when you think about how Thor went out of its way to say Norse mythology is just the myth based on our visits to Earth, and then the other side is like, yes, Zeus created mankind. Oh, okay then. We're both feet in. We are going all in on that.
Yeah, and now their whole the whole Justice League thing is sort of tied to that reality. Then, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, I guess there was at one point where Hippolyta had a throwaway line that it didn't really stick too much, where she said like, "Oh, well, that's all just a story." So then you wonder like, all right, so is this just a bedtime story? Is it just was there something? I don't know. But then Ares straight up said, my father's creation, they needed to show them what they were. So all right, so now we're back to Zeus created mankind, or does Ares just believe it because he is a god, but then the other people don't buy it because it's just a story to them? And then I realized I'm thinking about this too hard. So I stopped.
But it's fun though, right? I mean, if it's fun to think about it.
Yeah. All right. So we need to really quickly hit the rest of the cast because I still have a lot of notes to talk about, and we are going strong. We certainly are. All right. So briefly, Samir was played by Saeed Tafmaoui. I think I said that right. I remember him specifically from the live action G.I. Joe movie where he played Breaker, a French actor.
I remember him from Three Kings.
Three Kings,
actually.
that's
Do you
right,
remember the movie Three Kings?
Three Kings with
he was really
George
good
Clooney.
in Three Kings.
Yeah,
he was really good in that. And I think I saw him in a couple other things. He hasn't been in a whole lot, but I remember him in like Hideous Kinky. No one has seen that though, but he was very similar to his performances in those other movies that I've seen, which were equally strong, I think.
Yes.
So
no,
I liked him.
He's a very, very talented actor. Let's see. So Ewan Bremner played Charlie. I remember him specifically from Black Hawk Down.
I remember him from Train Spotting. So
yeah,
that's what I remember him from. I don't remember when I saw Black Hawk Down.
He was the character who couldn't hear very well because the explosion went off right next to his head.
Oh, what are you saying?
Yeah.
What did you just say?
Yeah,
what? Say
exactly.
that again? Okay.
Yeah, I see what you were doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to be funny.
Doing a little
That's
shtick.
Me. Haha.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, we're gonna roll because I got story points I want to talk about. Eugene Brave Rock played the chief. Most people will remember him from The Revenant with Leo DiCaprio.
Oh yeah. Yep. Okay. Now I remember where I know him from.
And Lucy Davis, we already mentioned her as Etta. So Etta, by the way, this is the first time I've seen Etta live action that I can recall, and I loved her in this movie. Lucy Davis, very famous from Shaun of the Dead and The British Office.
Yes, I actually looked her up before we started recording because I knew her from somewhere, but I didn't know where. I was like, it's driving me crazy. I need to know. And then it said Lucy Davis. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Dawn from The Office. That is so awesome.
She was the Pam equivalent.
She was
right?
great.
Yes. So anyway,
man.
I really wish she had more scenes because every scene she was in, she stole, and it's very hard to be in a scene with Chris Pine and Gal Gadot, and yet I care more about what your character's doing than what their characters are doing.
Mm-hmm. No, she was very strong.
Which I guess I could see why she wasn't in more scenes, because she's upstaging Gal Gadot. You got to step in and say, all right, Lucy.
She had a bunch more scenes, and then Gal was like, cut her.
They're starting to measure her for the Wonder Woman suit. People are making rumors, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, there's this backstage politics and everything.
I'd like to see that, actually. I'd like to see Etta as Wonder Woman.
I'd like to see that too. I love. She made me laugh. Most of my laughs came from her lines in this movie. All right, so that's the cast. Let's talk about some things. I want to say, first of all, this movie, thanks specifically to this movie, if you look in my Google search history now, you will see the phrase World War I condoms.
What?
So you know how I'm crazy, right? Like, I'm just...
Well, yeah, everybody knows.
So there is a romance that develops between Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman. I obviously don't approve because I don't like Steve Trevor, but it's...
Now, is there a romance that develops between them, or is it one-sided?
I mean, so maybe he falls in love with her. She seems to be in love with him. They definitely share a night together.
Yeah, I think she loves him as a human being.
She's not romantically.
I think she's using him.
Yeah, she does not have the same infatuation with him that he has with her. But she does have a love directed towards him in some manner or not, and they did have carnal relations. Or implied.
There was pleasure seeking going on her part.
To which I immediately thought wasn't there a lot of syphilis in the middle of World War I? There's a stat on this, Wes, that I looked up because why wouldn't I?
That's what you do. Syphilis, World War I. It's all in your Google.
That's what I do. So, in the course of World War I, over 7 million U.S. troops contracted syphilis.
Okay,
so
that's sad.
That is sad. It was and because of that, they actually started to issue condoms to the soldiers. Mostly the British. The American soldiers didn't get a whole lot until more towards the end. My immediate thought was, after their night, did you use protection? That was what was going through my head. Like, did they use protection?
I don't think Wonder Woman needs to worry about that. I think if she can heal up a scratch on her arm overnight or within the span of a couple hours, I think she can knock syphilis for a loop if that happens to be a thing that happens. Yeah.
It was not a train of thought I was really willing to have at the time. And as I was sitting there researching, like, all I wanted to know was, is it plausible that he could have had a condom? Because as soon as it's plausible, I can move on with my life.
So here's something interesting, though. When we talk about that, maybe he didn't have syphilis, and here's a story point that may be the reason. So when he was in the fountains, and she was at some point, they were in the sailboat, and she was asking if he had ever slept with women. He's like, "Sure, I've slept with women. I've slept with the women. Yes, I slept with women." So he kind of like gives that machismo answer, but then when they're dancing and she's asking him about, like what happens in a lifetime, and he's talking about, people just want to, read the paper in the morning, have breakfast, get married, have kids, and she asks, "What's that like?" And he says he doesn't know. I mean, there's this, it almost felt to me when I first saw it like it was a confession that he didn't know about lovemaking. Maybe. You could extrapolate that. So maybe he was a virgin and he was just playing it big so that, she was, that was his first time and his last time.
You know what? That makes it less upsetting to me somehow. So okay, I'm gonna roll with that. We've decided.
Okay, good.
As it is said, so shall it be done. On Hero Talk, Steve Trevor was a virgin.
Yay!
Yeah, we made that happen. That was us. We did that. Although I'm glad you bring up the boat, because I just want to say, just for general nautical safety, if you are in a boat that is underway and making way, don't both people on board go to sleep. That's just a bad idea. You don't want to both be sleeping while you're making way on a ship, because you don't know where you're going and you can't adjust course and you might hit something, and it is the middle of a war. You might want to take turns or something. I'm just saying that's just not good safety. And
you might run into an island of sirens.
Right.
We are talking about mythology here, so don't you not want to close your eyes around them or something? I think.
Yeah.
It's been a really long time since I read the Iliad or anything like that. So
I want to say with the sirens, wasn't it just one person on board has to hear them, but I don't know.
All I remember is they used like little sticks of wood to keep their eyes open. That's all I remember about that. I was in 7th grade. It was a long time ago.
Anyway, but the important thing is don't sail and make way when you're sleeping. Although apparently he just happened to run into a towboat, which was really lucky, because I was thinking like that's going to be a quite the boating experience. But good for them. And also, as long as we're talking about the scene where they danced, did it bother you that Wonder Woman didn't even finish her beer?
Did she even taste it?
I don't believe she even took a sip. They handed her the beer. They have a little talk. She sets the beer down. They dance. Then there's snow, and then we don't get to find out what happened to the beer. And I'm thinking, it's a war zone. People would like to enjoy that beer. It seems crass to just let it sit like that.
I don't know. I think that Wonder Woman seems more like a gin and tonic lady to me. So, it doesn't really break my heart. I'm not super into beer, but I do think that every red-blooded American man who does drink beer and enjoy the occasional, suds is probably like really focused on that scene and the fact that she didn't drink her beer.
and that I include myself amongst their numbers because that's
yes.
And I can't help it. This is what I do when I watch movies now. I don't really get to truly enjoy them. I have to start looking for things in the background because I think to myself, at some point I'm going to record a hero talk on this, and I'm going to at least want to bring some of these points up, and I can't help what I focus on. And sometimes it's like a picture in the background that's wrong, or in this case it was, hey, she didn't drink the beer. Hey, you didn't drink your beer.
I'm on the whole other side of this. I'm on the side where I'm overlooking like really bad continuity breaks and stuff like that. Just been like, oh, it's so pretty. Yeah. Like I'm on the other side. My suspension of disbelief is like Olympian level. I can sit through the worst of stuff and just be like, oh, look, it's shiny, and be perfectly happy.
For as well as it was done, you have to be able to suspend this. The idea that Ares was behind World War I was, it was happenstance that she just happened to run into Ares, because quite frankly, even after Ares dies, we go on and have World War II, and we almost say, oh, the god of war, you think you did bad? Hold my beer. I brought it full circle.
She does. Yeah. Yes, you did. I appreciate the efforts that you're making. She did talk about, humans, they're more complicated than she would have thought.
Yeah.
She kind of speaks to it in the beginning that, there's a whole other side to them, and they're not just at the will of this god who is infusing them with these warish thoughts and behaviors. They're making their own decisions to some degree. And then maybe it's the kind of thing where once you open up the door of a warring, being a warring people, maybe you can't close it. Maybe just killing Ares can't fix it all. Even though all the Germans were hugging and crying at the end.
Yes, they were very emotional at the end.
They were all also like 13 years old.
They were all. I mean, that's who was fighting wars. That's we still do that. It's still young kids fighting wars. But it's I thought about it, and it didn't even occur to me in the theater. I thought about it later as I was looking over my notes that she very likely could have, just as likely I should say, could have come and looked around at the war in the battlefront and not found Ares, because Ares was just standing by going, yeah, that's what they do. I don't have to be involved in this at all. I can just watch.
No, he's pulling the strings. He's blowing inspiration into their ears and faces and notepads and things like that.
And just as long as we're talking about World War I and World War II, just some lip service that Wonder Woman was initially a World War II character, and they changed it to World War I for this movie. I imagine so it's not exactly like Captain America.
I read a little bit about this, and I think there was some information. Now, I'm going to be paraphrasing here, but this World War I was the first big, huge war where they had basically the whole, like all of these countries involved, so many deaths. First modern war, and it was the first time that they had started to come up with chemical weapons where they weren't just throwing bullets at each other, but they were really trying to they were using ships in the air, and they were using chemical weapons, and that it was sort of like this was man's first really big wartime experience, and all of this was new, so that they were able to use those components instead of just World War II, which was heightened World War I, basically.
Yeah, I just realized that we at least need to pay some lip service to another actress in this movie. Is that Elena Anaya played Dr. Poison. We skipped over one of the main villains, and so I don't know what else she's been in. When I looked at, she was in Van Helsing, but I can't remember who she played. She was also in a movie called Room in Rome, which I've never seen, but Netflix likes to recommend it to me an awful lot.
Okay. She was in a lot of Pedro Almodovar movies. So, Talk to Her. She's one of the side characters. She was also in a movie called Sex and Lucia from very long time ago, which was, very not rated. But I think that was one of her big debuts. And I think she did, what she had, it's sort of like a Phantom of the Opera kind of thing going on with her face. But in that sequence, when she was, Wonder Woman had the tank or the big object and was considering maybe, but probably not, like throwing it at her. Her mask gets whipped away from the wind, and you see that she had this. You see the effect of whatever has happened to her. I don't know any of the history of Dr. Maru.
From the comic books, I don't believe Dr. Poison, at least never in anything I've read, but they reboot these characters every so often. I have never seen her with the scarring on her face like that.
So I think the actress performing as her made it seem like, gave her a lot of depth. You can have a lot of the villains in these hero movies that are sort of one or two-sided. There's not a whole lot of depth to them. They just can be evil because they have bad motivations, right? But she, in that moment where she was fearing for her life, when her mask was stripped away, she was vulnerable. I saw something deeper in there. I was thinking, what happened to her to make her so hell-bent on taking out humanity? How was she victimized to become, wanting to victimize all of humanity? So I think she did a really good job. I actually thought that the first time I saw it, I remember talking to my husband about it and just being really impressed by, even though it was kind of a fairly small role, it's, and she could have been upstaged very easily by Ludendorff, who, had the big battle sequence and all of that. But, she did a really good job, I think.
I appreciated the performance. Now, Dr. Poison in the comic books is really just, from everything I've ever read the character in, she is your one-dimensional villain. I spew poison. I'm Dr. Poison. And I mean, she just wears like this black suit, and there was a lot more depth to her. And I think especially where I saw it come out the most is when Steve Trevor's trying to get to her to see the facility, and he's trying to appeal to her to try to befriend her, basically doing his spy thing. And that's where I really saw her vulnerability, in that, like, this is a person who he was showing interest in her beyond just, you make weapons and I want your weapons. And I think she saw herself as sort of, she was worried she was just becoming this person who's just, people only want me for the death I can bring. And Steve Trevor, you get the impression that he was the only person who had, ever talked to her, at least in since the accident or whatever happened to her.
Yeah, I can see that.
As a human. And there was definitely a vulnerability to that. And to the point where when he is distracted by Diana, who walked in with the least subtle sword on her back that nobody seemed to say anything about.
It's decorative weaponry.
Yeah. Somehow that was okay with everyone there. But when he starts giving his attention to her, as distracted as he would be from, like, well, why is she here? Clearly bad things are going to happen. You can see how hurt she is just by the idea that, oh, but then here's this beautiful woman and suddenly I don't exist to you anymore.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, of course, I see your attentions lie elsewhere. Something like that is the line. Yeah, I agree with what you said there. I think that's, I think she took the opportunity to, like, sink her teeth into that little role.
When you consider it's Dr. Poison of all people, if you would have thought, if you said, all right, Greg, listen, I'm now Patty Jenkins talking to Judge Greg, write out the list of all the villains that you think should be in a Wonder Woman movie. Dr. Poison wouldn't have made the top 100. I would be grabbing, like, Batman villains first before I ever picked Dr. Poison. And so to see the character chosen, and not only chosen, but to given this depth, was very impressive to me.
It totally works. Dr. Poison, chemical weapons, World War I, like, it neatly fits together in a package that makes sense.
She was perfect for it, and I wanted to make sure we at least acknowledged her role in this, because I thought she did a phenomenal job, even though there was a lot about that particular scene outside of that moment that I thought was a little bit ridiculous, including, and I have to point it out because this is one of the most ridiculous tropes, when impersonating a German officer. and speaking to other German officers. You should be speaking German. They don't speak to each other in German accents. It's so ridiculous. And it's one of those things where I get it. I don't want to have to read subtitles all the time. That's why I'm okay when the Amazonians speak English to each other when no one else is around.
Right.
Because otherwise I have to hear people try to speak Greek who don't normally speak Greek, and I have to read subtitles, and I don't want to do that. But for that one little scene...
I agree with you. I think they could have gotten away with it had they not had people speaking in different languages in other parts of the film. But, the villagers who saw the church get, completely bashed, and then some of the soldiers in the beginning of the movie, like, they were speaking different Belgian or German, and they were not speaking English with accents. So, yeah, I agree that that's one of those little, like, maybe, they made a choice there. That was maybe he couldn't pull off the German. Maybe he could just barely pull off a bad German accent, but actually having him speak German was just too much to ask.
Yeah, it was a little bit silly. And as long as you mention the church, because I want to talk about the church and the bell tower particularly. This was something I noticed the whole movie, and I might sound like I'm being hypercritical of the character of Steve Trevor, and I am.
You're being Judge Greg.
I am, yes. This is what I do. I judge people. I'm a judgmental person. It's in my name. I felt like the whole time when Wonder Woman's out and actually taking care of business because she's a demigod and imbued with the powers of the gods and is the son of Zeus, the daughter of Zeus. Hercules, the son of Zeus. Hercules reminds me of Xena. Xena brings back the Wonder Woman. When every time she's out there doing her thing, I have to get some shot of Steve Trevor helping. And I get this Ralph Wiggum in the back of my head, like she's taking care of 50 guys, and then he shoots one, and he says, "I'm helping." I'm like, no, you're really not necessary here. Did you think she couldn't get that one guy? Like, she was at her capacity at the 50, and the 51st guy that rolled in, that was over her. Like, she had that. And especially the bell tower scene where the guy is shooting, and they want to say they're pinned down, and Steve is like, well, we need to risk ourselves to lift her up so that she can hit the bell tower. And I think, I'm pretty sure Wonder Woman could just handle that situation without your help, Steve.
Well, it's a callback to what he saw on Themyscira.
I get that, but
it's like, let's do the shield. Come on, let's do it. I saw them do it. Let's see her jump really high.
That's it. That's Steve Trevor saying, "I'm helping. I'm going to do the shield thing, Wonder Woman," instead of, Wonder Woman, hey, since you have a shield that you can use to block bullets and the wrist things, and you could basically just jump up there without my help, or you could just walk into the church and he couldn't touch you with a bullet and then go up the stairs, I mean, there were so many ways that could have happened that didn't have to. It just felt like Steve Trevor was just he was just trying to be helpful, and everyone was just humoring
it killing you in that scene where they were having like her fight sequence and then his fight sequence, and they kept cutting between them like they were in any way like they were in any way the same thing? Yeah. Yes.
When she's taking out all these guys and he punches one guy in the face, I'm like, oh yeah, that's totally the same thing.
Good job, Steve. Well done. Points. I have mixed feelings about it, but I if I really sit back and think about it, I think about it from the filmmaker's perspective. They're trying to line up the shots and shot continuity so that people land in places that the audience expects them to be when the shot is finalized, right? So, where did these guys go when she's having this big fight? So I get your point, but I can see it from both sides, and I just go, I'm like, I'm fine with it. They did a good job. Gold star, you guys.
Yeah. You get a smiley face, Steve Trevor, because you helped.
I mean, part of me wants to be like, yeah, just let the woman have all the glory in this. Why do the guys have to get their screen time at all? But you know what? It's, this is reality. This is the real world, and I'm gonna go along with it. They all did a fine job. They all get a pat on the back. All those fellas, their hearts were in the right place.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie gets brought along as almost this was actually kind of an important scene, but it was at the one point, like, their sharpshooter, because he suffers from PTSD, which is I mean horribly tragic when you give it any thought at all to what you actually just saw. And to the point where he feels like he's completely worthless and not helping. And then you see Diana just extend and this is a clutch part of the character, which is Patty Jenkins did a great job bringing this forward. Is Diana not? I mean, she can go and she can stab a bunch of German soldiers with her sword, and it will look amazing. But as like the song says, she stops a war with love and makes a hawk a dove, and she just extends him kindness in that moment when he's feeling at his lowest, and actually brings him out of it.
You're so right with that. And I remember when I first watched it, I was thinking, wow, he's kind of useless. I mean, I didn't even, that was just my response to it. And then she turned around and she was like, we need you here. We need your singing. Like, you know, he has value, and every human being who's contributing has value. And even if they're not contributing, every human being has value, you guys. Let's just put that out there. And she sees it, and she wanted them to see it as well. And I think you're right that they remembered that instead of going for the easy moment, which is to like, this guy is flawed and like, you know, maybe he caused a problem or something. No, that it worked out. It was fine. And he is part of this crew. He is a member of that little Three Musketeers team. No, Four Musketeers, right?
Four Musketeers,
yeah.
Well, there's three now.
Oh, I need my little sad. I'm sad now. Soundboard sound effect. Oh, what are they gonna do without Steve?
Oh. You know what? I could, if they bring those guys back for Wonder Woman 2, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'm saying Wonder Woman 2, there's no reason why you have to go present day. Wonder Woman, I felt, gave us the idea of this is how Diana became, this is where she developed into, you know, the person that she is. But I would like to see another movie that, you know, give it another 10 years into the future, or go, and, you know, even during World War II maybe. And okay, so how did she come from being Diana, Princess of Themyscira? How did she become Wonder Woman? And I think that's what I would like to see the next movie go to. And if you know, the Samir and Charlie and the Chief, if they are in that movie as her, even if it's just for cameos, as people that she goes to for a favor or something, I would not be opposed to that movie.
Definitely they got to bring back Etta Candy.
They have to.
She used to be like Wonder Woman's Diana Prince's secretary. Well, I mean, you know, Diana Prince is, you know, she's sort of immortal in that way. You know, you grow up and then you stay like 32 forever. That's how it works. I have such mixed feelings. Like, and I know this is a staple of superhero movies, is to do sequels and then more story and more story and more story. I just think this was such a nugget, a golden nugget of a movie, and I always fear sequels, that there will somehow diminish the story in some way, or just kind of pull it too far and leave you sort of exhausted from it. I just, you know, I want to enjoy this movie for what it is, and I hope that it is long lasting in how people are responding to it, and the vigor with which everybody who's really liking it seems to be enjoying it, especially for you know, young women who haven't really had an opportunity to have, I mean, Elektra. I mean,
we do not talk about Elektra in here.
Okay. I never thought of Catwoman. I never.
Well, that movie was unwatchable. Oh my goodness.
I just never felt anything about any of the superhero movies that made me feel like that I saw myself up on screen at all. In any frame of mind. And like, let's be honest, I'm a 40-something-year-old heavyset woman who's about 5'2" on a good tall day, and I still felt emboldened from seeing this movie. I still felt like wow, I feel like I have the power. I had a He-Man moment, you know.
I do love He-Man.
I just think of all the younger women who are gonna see this, and that I think it's a good time. It's needed. I think one of the interesting things story-wise that I don't know if this was written in the movie before current events or in response to current events, but I think one of the fun things that kept happening throughout the movie, which I certainly saw, and I'm not sure if you saw, but everybody was telling her no. At first it was her mother on the island. No, you can't train. No, you can't go But then her mother, relinquished. She's like, okay, I know that I can't tell you what to do. I'm going to let you go. It's going to break my heart. But it's fine. But then all the guys were like, no, you can't wear this. You can't bring that sword out. You can't go to No Man's Land. It kind of hit its peak on the No Man's Land scene where they're like, we're not here to do this. You can't do this. No one has ever done that. It's a lost cause. And she's like, this is what I'm doing. And she was hearing a lot of, no, this is not your place. This is not what you're here for. And she did the right thing anyway. She did what was in her heart to do anyway. And I think that's a really positive message to send to people who feel, regardless if you're a little boy or a little girl, that you don't feel disenfranchised from doing what you want to do in your heart, and you don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. I think that's a really important message that I haven't really heard before.
That resonates in a way, and like you said, it doesn't. This is not something that is specifically a gendered issue. Right. This is a matter of perseverance. This is something that everyone can get behind and see, and we don't see it a lot, especially in the superhero. I mean, a little bit with Spider-Man, but never to the extent that Diana is seeing. And it's not just you're not even just pointing at like, oh, in the world of man, she's told no. On Amazon Island, she's told no at every single range of her life. For the extent of her life, ever since, little 8-year-old Diana, played by Lily Aspel, who is adorable, was running around, she's been told, no, you can't do this. No, we're not going to do that. No, we can't do this. And I mean, the only person in her entire life who told her that she could was Antiope. Yeah. And then she dies protecting her. And you just have this moment where it's the callback to, and especially with No Man's Land, a little heavy-handed when they said no man has ever done it, because I thought, well, that's just going to push her over the edge now.
At least they didn't go, well, this woman will.
Now she's going to do it just to spite you. Really.
Yeah.
No, she did it because it was the right thing to do.
That it was
because she knew she could.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Such a good
she
example.
she knew that I can make it across there. I can do something about this, and she felt compelled to that she had an obligation that since she could make a difference, it was up to her to make a difference instead of just she can't just close her eyes and give the bad guys a pass, because that's not the mission. That's not Wonder Woman, and that was a huge moment, and it was a very powerful moment in the film, honestly, and it was the moment where I saw it. I was honestly starting to wonder, like, when am I going to see some Wonder Woman show up in this film? And then she showed up right there, and I mean, what just was I had chills in the theater as the music swells and as she decides they're not going to stop me, and it was
so good.
Yeah, that's a huge, powerful moment, and I mean, you're exactly right in terms of we don't see any superhero do this. So much of the message of Wonder Woman is, and sometimes some of the commenters are selling it short. Like this is, you don't see this in any of the superhero movies.
Yeah,
in
they're all
any
dealing
of them.
with their personal demons.
Yeah,
instead of their and with her, it's not a personal demon or a tragedy that has scarred her that she's working within the confines of, and she's got all of this inside her, this goodness, this desire to bring peace and to have people live in in that world that she's so accustomed to,
right?
And she knows that she has the power to help. She knows that's why the Amazons were made. That's her duty. She has to. And even when her mother, the queen of the Amazons, is telling her, no, this is not your place. You're not Amazon like the rest of them. She knows that she has to, and it's for the good of all mankind, and it's the will of Zeus, and let's do this. So I think it's that difference in motivation, I think, that is like, I don't remember another, like, Superman is sort of fish out of water, but not by choice.
Right.
He kind of, he was a baby when he was dropped, when he landed on the earth, and he had to, like, deal with all of that angst through his teenage years, and his father, and parents telling him, he had to work with his powers, and it was like it was a burden to him. And with her, it's not a burden. It's something that's in her corner that she can use for the good, and it's just a positive message. And I understand that you want to have those other stories. You want to have the anti-hero stories. You want to have you want to delve into people with dark histories. Because that helps people too. That helps younger people deal with problems, helps them overcome things as well. But this was really nice to see, this positivity. I'm really big on positivity and enthusiasm for the goodness in humanity. And I think this movie just is writ large that message. So I really, really enjoyed it.
Especially in the modern superhero where, Wonder Woman and Superman are supposed to both be these symbols of hope. And we have a Superman in Man of Steel who's saying, hey, this symbol on my chest means hope, but you're not seeing a lot of it from him. It's a very dark, he's very much, he's not, you don't want to see everything go dark. And I get it, Batman sells, and so everybody kind of wants to be Batman a little bit. That's what I blame it on is, all of a sudden, Batman Begins and The Dark Knight come out, and now everyone kind of wants to be Batman. And now you have Wonder Woman, who's very unapologetically Wonder Woman, and it works. The proof is in the pudding here. The movie, it's the highest opening film that a female director has ever had, and it's just raking in money. It was the #1 film in the world. It will continue to be #1. I don't see this dropping off the charts anytime soon because it's getting nothing but positive buzz, and people are going to go see it. And it's just it's unapologetically Wonder Woman in an age where Superman can't be Superman without trying to make it edgy. Wonder Woman is being Wonder Woman, and it's an amazing thing to see that in 2017 you can still be the hero of hope unapologetically, unabashedly, without any reservation, without trying to hold back, and it's out there, and it's working, and I think it's great, and I can't wait for the next generation of superhero watchers to see this movie and get inspired to do something better and beyond that, and to see what's going to happen, because if a movie like Wonder Woman that can just be about a character of hope, that could be unapologetic about it like this, if this can make it, then who knows what we're going to see and what's going to come down the line, and I am excited for it. Yep,
it's good time. It's good time in movies right now.
Yeah, and
it can be a bad time for everything else, but at least we have Wonder Woman,
At least we
right?
have Wonder Woman. Yeah, when I don't want to watch the news, at least now I have Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
This movie, I honestly, this is a must buy. I cannot wait to own this movie.
For sure.
And to have it ready to go, because I want to see it again. And I can't even get myself to watch Batman v Superman again. And I bought the extended cut so that I could see what was different.
Oh no.
And it's been sitting on my queue, and I just keep looking like I don't actually want to watch this movie again.
Because it's like torture. Yeah, I can't wait for this movie. I can't wait for the deleted scenes, the extended scenes, the alternate cuts.
Yeah.
I want to go to Paradise Island. I want a real life Themyscira.
I would as well. Yes. I
want a theme park or a vacation getaway that is modeled after Themyscira, and I just want to spend like a week there in the water.
Yeah, really. I want the jacuzzi room is basically.
Yeah. The dungeon.
I would love to get the jacuzzi dungeon. I'm okay with it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm speaking the praises of the movie because I'm really excited about it. And finally, Warner Brothers can stand up and say, see, we can make decent superhero movies again. We didn't forget how. This is the best that I've seen since the Dark Knight trilogy. And I'm not saying that the Dark Knight trilogy was better. I'm just saying they're apples and oranges. The Dark Knight trilogy was its own thing, and I don't want to try to mix it in because it was trying very hard to hyper realize Batman to the point where it's its own thing, and I can't really call it a superhero movie. And I was especially impressed when you have movies that have a lot of talking and a lot of dialogue in them in terms of the superhero films, and a lot of them do. This was the most character development I saw in those moments. Just comparing it, unfortunately, to Batman v Superman, there wasn't a lot of development among the characters.
Yeah, they were kind of already who they were.
They were who they were.
Just responding.
They would quip at each other, but nobody really changed except when everyone became BFFs because of Martha.
Yeah.
But another interesting point though, if there's a good takeaway out of that movie, other than the Batman fight that everyone loves and Wonder Woman showing up, which was pretty cool, and the Wonder Woman theme song, which is amazing, by the way. It is the most recognizable piece of the score that has come out of the series. I recognize the Superman theme, but it doesn't say Superman to me. The Boston Bruins used it for the introduction to their postseason. That's how Superman it was. It was just generic inspirational music for them.
Wow.
But I recognized it, because I'm a psycho, and I recognize things like that. But I'm like, that's the Superman music. And everyone who I was with said, no, it's not, because they all think of the John Williams theme when they think Superman.
Oh, yeah.
So, but when Wonder Woman shows up and the guitar riff starts, that says Wonder Woman to me. And it's a very powerful piece of score, which came out of Batman v Superman, and that was very good watching. But the point I'm trying to make in all of this incoherent rambling is that it's very interesting if you see, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, because I don't have a lot of faith in Batman v Superman, but the Wonder Woman we see in Batman v Superman is a lot more confident, she's the result of having now spent 100 years in the real world being Wonder Woman. And so you don't see the same innocence, but you see somebody who's now a seasoned veteran at what she's doing.
She's seen some stuff.
Yeah.
She's been places. She's a little bit more, what is the word that I'm looking for? She's just obviously there's a maturity there, but also there is, I don't want to say darkness, but she's lived and learned from humanity and the other stuff that has gone on with, villains and heroes throughout that time. She seems like a little more of a skeptic.
She is, yes. To the point where Batman, of all people, is the one who inspires her to get the armor back on and jump in the fight.
Yeah. It's, she's got to, does she got to fix everything? That's the attitude.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe that's not the attitude I saw, but, that could be that, if that's the foreshadowing that we're seeing, thematically, I'm a little bummed for her that, she has to hang out with all of these, like, grim totems, from, in Batman and Superman, like, it's like, oh man, like, she's gonna really hit it off with Spider-Man's Marvel, right?
The Flash. The Flash is who she's gonna
Flash, maybe? Yeah. She'll get the Flash. They'll be buds, but it's like
I would like to see, as we go into Justice League, to see Wonder Woman have a more positive influence on Batman.
So cheer up, fellas. Jeez Louise, it's not that bad.
It feels to me, now again, this could be completely unintentional, and I might be giving Zack Snyder, who unfortunately, if you hear it, had to leave production of Justice League.
I did read about all that,
unfortunately, and of course our hearts break for him as Joss Whedon comes in to continue. I don't want to be trying to give too much credit, and I might be reading too much into it. However, to see Batman start to almost re-inspire Wonder Woman again, I would like to see, as a result, she inspires him to, you don't have to hate yourself so much that you're trying to commit suicide via vigilante.
Yeah.
You can be a force for good, and you can be a symbol. And I'd like to see that play out a little bit more, and maybe we'll see that. I don't know. I would not be opposed to a Wonder Woman Batman movie of the two of them.
She needs just to pack him in the invisible jet, fly him out to Themyscira, spend a couple weeks out there chilling, getting tan, riding horses, training with the ladies, and he'll be good as gold.
Yeah.
He'll feel very refreshed.
I would be afraid of Batman after training on Themyscira. Can you imagine the Batman that comes back from that training?
He can't wipe the smile off his face.
So, really quick, before we start wrapping it up, because, wow, as I look at the time.
It's a conversation.
It was. Can Wonder Woman fly in this? She seems to be just jumping, but then when she awakens her god powers, she flies, but then at the very end
floats.
She's just jumping again.
Well, she was definitely floating and and bringing herself down a lot like Superman did, in some of the older films at least, where he was just like stepping feet down. She was very graceful on her landings in the magical mode at least. So I think she does have the ability to fly. She definitely looked like she was, she had an arm in front of the other at the end there.
Right. I was really kind of, because I didn't get a good feel of that in Batman v Superman, and I thought I was gonna maybe see her, but she didn't seem to fly in Wonder Woman very much, except for right at the end, and that made me wonder. All right, so does she have power like Ares does, or is she basically, because she's a demigod, able to harness Ares' power and redirect it back at him?
It's a good question. I think back to On the Island when they kept telling her Antiope was like, you have way more power than you know about. So I think she didn't know, maybe all throughout. She's slowly gaining confidence as the film develops, as she becomes more adept at fighting people who aren't just sparring with her. You know, she's like, oh yeah, I can do this. All right, let's do this. Like, so she was still learning the whole movie. She was learning what her limits are and what her limits weren't. So at the end, it seems like she understands she can do kind of what she wants.
When she flipped out right at the end there, she was definitely running at super speed and doing things we hadn't seen her do previously. Even at one point where Ares was like trying to throw the blades at her. And it seemed like she was, and this was before she was blasted and harnessing his power. She was disintegrating them as they came at her.
That was so awesome.
I'm not taking away from that. That was awesome. That whole scene and the way the music swelled, and when she like takes the power and harness it, realizes she can do this, and then realizes that okay, I am the God Killer. Sorry, bro. Yeah, I'm gonna kill you now. I see that, and the first thing that came in my head is, all right, so you couldn't do that to Doomsday? What was that back in Gotham? What was that?
Well, see, it was shot. No, I don't know the timelines. I don't know what to tell you on that. Maybe she just wasn't, she had the loss of Steve Trevor to create that pinnacle.
He was helping.
Yes, he was helping. And she was feeling the rage of all mankind in that moment, and the degree to which they can love each other as a species, and that he had to give his life for this. So she was in that rage, and here she was just like, all right, I guess I have to save these fellas who can't deal with Doomsday themselves.
Yeah, I just when I saw that and I saw her kill the God of War, I thought, then how is it you couldn't take out Doomsday? You took out a literal god, but it just makes me wonder. So I mean, are you saying that Doomsday was more powerful than the God of War? Because maybe you are. I don't know. Maybe that's what you're saying. I'm reading too much into it. Anyway, Wes, do you have anything else you want to say about the movie before we roll on to what our favorite parts are?
I think I've expressed most of what I had noted. I just really I loved it. I'm happy I saw it 2 times. I can't wait till it comes out on disc. If I know any younger girls, I'm gonna force them to watch it.
That's not actually legal. You can't actually do that, and we don't advocate that.
Well, I will convince them then. I will convince them to watch it of their own voluntary nature. No, I think it's a must see. Definitely. While it's in theaters, I saw it in 3D IMAX.
Ooh, no,
it was I usually can't do 3D a whole lot, but it was okay. I saw it today in 2D and it was just as good. So in either experience, you're gonna have a good time. Throw your money at this movie. You won't regret seeing it.
Yeah, there's no reason not. This is a very, very good movie. There's no reason to not see it. And you might as well get the full theater experience, because quite frankly, there's nothing like when the speakers kick on and the music plays. That was phenomenal. So now is the time on Hero Talk where we say what our favorite parts of the movie were. And Wes, as literally the only other person in this conversation, I'm going to start with you. What was your favorite part of Wonder Woman?
Oh gosh, I think the part that's resonating with me tonight didn't even have Wonder Woman in it, and it was the scene when the I was going to say Nazis, but that's the wrong war. When the Germans came up on the shores at Themyscira, and Antiope was rolling up on her horse into battle. She had a smile on her face, and I just thought that moment was really just really well played. That they didn't focus on it too long, but you see there's a look of concern of everybody, and she rolls up and she gets this smile on her face that just feels like, yes, this is what we were made for. This is what our lives are about. And I thought that was very, like I just love that moment. I really liked it. It sits with me, and you know, it's just so fierce, you know, just just such fierceness.
It was very reminiscent to me of the smile that Diana had when she was fighting Doomsday in Batman v Superman.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You know, when like he knocks her back and she's just smiling like, that all you got? And just goes right back in there. It was reminiscent of that. Was and that little note, that was Gal Gadot. That was all her. That wasn't scripted.
Good job.
And so they film it and they cut it, and Zack Snyder says, were you smiling? And she says, yes, I felt that's what the character would do. And so they kept it. They loved it, and that was huge. So it was reminiscent of that to me, because that was a very, very pivotal scene of Batman v Superman. So yeah, I get that scene. That was a brutal. I remember specifically when in the slow motion Wonder Woman vision, she sees the bullet fly past her head, and you see it just hit directly in the abdomen of that one Amazon, and she's just dang. I winced a little bit when that hit. That was a very brutal shot, and it made it very real. All of us, that, you know, despite all the skill, this is still presenting mortal danger to them.
This is new to them. They don't know what bullets are.
Oh, they have no idea. Yeah.
So like I think that like she watched that bullet whiz by thinking, what is that thing? What is that gonna do? And yeah, that scene was just so, you know, just the jumping in the air, the like multi-arrow action. It was just very well photographed and very well done, and you know, like there was some loss in there, but it was just really epic. And I think that the thing that makes me feel not so bad about those ladies is the Amazons. They were made by Zeus to they were made to inspire the hearts of man with love, and then when that didn't work, you know, they had to fight. So
they were warriors bred.
Yeah.
You know, they were specifically for the reason of, you know, to inspire, and then when that fails, to win.
So they were in their element, and she went out, and Antiope went out like kind of with a smile on her face. So that's, you know, she went out fighting. I don't know if there was another way she would have gone out. I don't know how Amazon biology works, but I think they're immortal. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they're portrayed as nominally immortal, though. I mean, you can clearly see that there are Amazons that were older than Diana there. So I like to think that they just age at an immensely slow pace.
I was thinking that they don't age at all. I was thinking that they were created at the ages that they currently are, and they just happen to have been created at age like 45 and 50. And I thought that was like, if regardless of what the truth is around that, I think either one is pretty cool. I like to think that the older ladies were just what Zeus wanted. So
Zeus has a reputation, but anyway, comic book lore is that they don't age. They're immortal. So now it's my turn. So my favorite part, this is no surprise. If you've listened to the podcast, you know what my favorite part is. My favorite part is the crossing of No Man's Land and the subsequent battle in the village. Specifically, I remember after the No Man's Land battle, when they fought and the music was starting to swell, and I see her like getting ready to attack the German troops, I specifically thought to myself, am I going to hear the Wonder Woman theme anywhere in here? And less than 2 seconds after that thought crossed my head, the theme kicked in when Wonder Woman burst into the room full of Germans.
Nice.
And from that moment on, I was just staring in awe of one of the finest choreographed action sequences I've seen in cinema. So that there's no other way that couldn't be my favorite scene, because that was just beautifully done. It was Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Oh, so good. It's very memorable. I'm still remembering. Yeah,
it is.
I love that crash through the wall. I love it so much.
Yeah, the knee through the wall was brutal. She did it, and I just thought, well, he's dead. You don't come back from that. That's blasting through a wall is pretty hard, and doing it spine first with a knee in your solar plex cannot be easy.
Yeah, but for all the violence, it actually wasn't too gratuitous. I think
it was not. I didn't see an awful lot of blood that I can recall. Maybe a little bit. There were some implications that were bad, but you didn't see even at one point where they told the queen she was bleeding, or they told
Antiope was bleeding.
Thank you. Yeah. When she was bleeding, I didn't actually see blood.
Yeah, me neither. The only blood I saw was on Wonder Woman's arm
Yeah.
after the battle,
right after that
the
first
original
battle. Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't very gratuitous at all. And then the language was very tame. I don't remember much at all. So other than perhaps there was the night of passion, but even that was a kiss and fade to black.
It's
It
implied,
wasn't.
yeah.
Yeah, it was very. I've seen worse on TV, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So I really wonder like how it earned its rating, because it didn't seem like anything was that felt like a PG movie.
Well, there was a lot of punching and a lot of fighting, so
There was.
But I agree with you. It seems like there needs to be another delineation between PG and PG-13
Right.
for lots of violence, but kind of like the prettiest violence that you could have.
Yeah.
You're seeing the bad guys get a butt whooping, but you're not feeling that impact a whole lot. And, so thematically, I would, I mean, if I had a daughter or a son, I would definitely, around 9 years old, I think I would let them watch this with no problem. I saw people in the theater with children who were younger than that, who were bringing them in, but
I definitely
that's a
saw
whole other story.
younger in the theater. So now is the time, I guess we have to give Wonder Woman a score. And Wes, again, you're literally the only other person in this conversation that I can talk to. So if you had to score Wonder Woman, what score would you give it?
I'm gonna give it 10 forearm bracelets out of 10, Judge, because I just think it's super awesome, and I can't think of a reason that I don't like any part of it. I just don't want to scrutinize it that much. It's such a happy experience for me, and I came out and I felt like I was myself a superhero. So definitely 10 out of 10.
I no arguments here. It was I walked out of that theater singing that Wonder Woman theme to my. Now I walked into the theater singing the 1970s Wonder Woman. It's been in my head since I knew I was going to see this movie, basically.
Oh, for sure.
But I walked out with a new theme in my head, and I was definitely feeling pretty pumped up. So I will stand by you on that. If I were to score Wonder Woman, I would score Wonder Woman The Lasso of Truth, which would compel me to tell you that this is a phenomenal movie and you need to go see it.
Oh, snap. Look at what you did.
Yeah. See what I did? That's how I score. That's how we roll here on Hero Talk. And so now is the time on Hero Talk where we go into our final thoughts. And as I want to do when I have a guest, I will go ahead and I will submit all of my time to my guest. Wes, final thoughts. Go.
Well, Judge Greg, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for inviting me on and encouraging me to talk about Wonder Woman. I don't go to a lot of movies nowadays, which is my own hang up, really. I have to go out more often. But I'm really happy that I had a purpose in going to see this. And if I had not seen it in theaters, I would have been real sad about it. So thank you so much for that. This is only my second podcast appearance ever, so I hope I did okay.
Oh, you were phenomenal. Phenomenal. I mean, look at all this audio we have. And
we talked for like 8.5 hours, I think.
But yeah, I mean, this was a you were phenomenal. We had a great conversation, and yeah, so don't worry about that.
I do talk a lot. I have a lot of practice talking, though. I am a gaming broadcaster. I do live streaming over on Twitch. Some of you guys may have seen me on Twitch. I am WonderWez on Twitch, twitch.tv, WonderWez. I stream there 4 days a week. You can find me 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific time, so very late for you East Coasters, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And I just started streaming on Mixer, formerly known as Beam, and I'm having a good old time there. I stream there 3 days a week, Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. I just changed my schedules. I don't know it very much. That's mixer.com/WonderWez. I play a lot of video games, you guys. I've been playing some Prey on Xbox, and that game is taking me forever to play. And I'm also playing Elder Scrolls Online. I just started a new character there. I started playing it for the new Morrowind expansion, and I'm bringing a lot of Wonder Woman. I'm bringing a lot of Diana Prince to my character. character. I'm actually doing a little RP. So it's a new experience for me. And I'm using the voice that a lot of the Amazons kind of use, but also mixing it up with a little Nord kind of angle. So, you guys should all stay away. It's terrible. Don't watch. But you are welcome to watch, of course.
No, that's not true. It's not terrible. I was on your stream the other day, and it was great. It was,
I
yeah.
try.
In fact, I just got back from Wonder Woman, and I went on your stream, and then
Yes, didn't I sound just like an Amazon talking about my character, Wesmeralda White-Eye? No, I'm not going to do voices anymore. It's terrible.
But yeah, just to point out though, I really enjoy the fact that the Amazons had an accent, so it wasn't just an island of American-speaking people, but they actually felt like they were from a different place and were foreign.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what place that is. It could have been kind of Greek, kind of British, but they were all doing hard work with those accents.
But anyway, if you want to see more of Wes's stuff, I'm going to put links to all of Wes's channels in the show notes. So go to Enthusiacs.com, check out the Wonder Woman link for Hero Talk, and you will have information to Wes on Twitch, on Mixer. I almost said Beam, but Mixer, that's a new thing. Yeah. And to Twitter. So you should be following Wes on Twitter. And if you don't follow Wes on Twitter, you are wrong. And I don't have a nicer way of saying that.
Well, you're missing a lot of photos of a cute dog.
You are a little Boston Terrier, and it's glorious. And shame on you for not following Wes.
Oh, thank you, Judge Craig.
All right,
shaming people into coming over to my channels. That's amazing.
Shame is a great tool. Wonder Woman deals with love. I deal with judgment and shame. This is just we all got to stick to our wheelhouse.
For sure. Themes apply.
So, Wes, thank you so much for coming on Hero Talk. I really appreciate this.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
This has been great fun.
I'm
so happy you came on.
Oh, thanks so much.
All right.
Now get some sleep, would you?
I need to get there. But before we do that, let's just make sure everybody knows. If you want to hear more Hero Talks or more podcasts, you should check out Enthusiacs.com. You can also find us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Just search for Enthusiacs. And until next time, this is Judge Greg saying, I have no father. I was brought to life by Zeus.
Nordland.
North. All right, I got my stinger now, I guess. Wonder Woman.